All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Marissa Caravellis. 6:32. We're going to call to order our March. What month are we in? Our March board meeting. So we got spring break around the corner. So we've got just some business to take care of before we have our spring break coming up.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to go through the agenda here. So as always, we have time for public comment. And so if anybody would like to have anything to say on public comment, you put your name in the chat. I didn't get any public comment prior to the meeting, but we'll have that section. We're going to go through and approve our last board meeting minutes from January. And then we will have a vote on a new board candidate. So we had an interview prior to us joining tonight, and so we're ready to vote on that tonight. And then we're going to move over to our administration team. And I know we've got some updates with regards to some IT technology, some capital projects, our March board report, maybe some updates on our goals for the school year. If Karen's on, we'll have our PTO update. Kevin is not with us tonight, but we'll have a finance update. We will go over our committees, including some updates from our executive committee. And then Stacy will close us out. Any additions or changes to the agenda? No. Okay. So we will go right into public comment. So again, if anybody has something to put their name in the chat, it's we have our public comment guidelines in there. So you have 3 minutes to, say anything with regards to our agenda tonight.
I just reread that. I'm like, oh yeah, Kate, we got Kate for 2 more years.
I'm looking at the chat. I don't see anybody. All right, so I guess we'll move on from public comment and we will move to approving our January 14th minutes. They're visible in board docs. If you click on view minutes, hopefully you guys got a chance to look at that.
I would like to move to approve the minutes from the January 14th meeting.
Okay. Seconds.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have our vote on a new board member.
Yeah, I would. We met multiple times to individually and then as a group in an interview with our former PTO president, Sarah Blecko. And so we are moving forward with a vote tonight to go ahead and move her onto the board. So I am making a motion to approve Sarah Blecko for board membership.
I second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Welcome to the board, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
As Carla previously mentioned, there will be quite a bit of training, and that lady right there is going to be your new best friend on getting your fingerprints and trading and all of that stuff just started. And as block out those 4 hours. You got it. Consecutively.
Yeah, so you'll be hearing from me,
Yeah.
Alicia. We got some background checks, fingerprints,
Mm-hmm.
lots of fun stuff.
Okay,
But
sounds great.
You'll hear from us after the meeting.
No, we are super excited to have you join the team. I think you're going to be an excellent piece of the puzzle to really support our diversity and, just bring a different background to our school. So thank you very much.
All right, excellent. So we'll move right along to our administration team.
All right, so let's see. So John, I'll go ahead and let you. I'll go ahead and let you share what's happening at the secondary building, and then Eileen will let you share what's going on at the elementary campus.
All right. Sorry about that. My dog was just going by and you probably heard some little footsteps. Some cool things that are happening. We've had a lot of field trips lately. We've had a couple of field trips to the Orlando Museum of Art. We went out to the Dolly Museum. We've been really trying to push experience, having experiences beyond just the classroom. And I think that our teachers have done a really great job of stepping up and kind of just doing some really cool stuff. I mean, going to the Dolly Museum and going to the Museum of Art, in the same month it's a really cool exercise, and kind of makes me jealous that I wasn't in high school doing that stuff. I couldn't go. But I'm really proud of my teachers for doing that, because the kids had a really good time. The other thing I like to mention as well is that our ninth graders are joining our community day with the high school at the end of the week. I'm really thankful for Allison. I know she's on, so thank you, Allison, for really figuring out and coordinating with some of our secondary one teachers to make that happen for our ninth graders, because they really do want to feel part of the high school program. And this is that kind of that final piece of kind of bringing our community together. So that's a really cool thing to see, and I'm really happy for the ninth graders because they're high schoolers and they want to kind of feel that way. So I'm happy for that. Some other cool stuff I'm going to briefly mention, if I might, is that we've started. Last time we spoke, I talked a little bit about the digital tool certifications, and we have formally and officially gotten underway. And I'm happy to report approximately 200 passes for these digital certifications already. And that basically gives it's a certification, a very it doesn't rise to like a high school level industry certification, but it does indicate some career and college readiness, some skills that the kids can do. And in this case, it was cybersecurity. And it's a credential that the students can say, hey, listen, I have some skills that are recognized by outside organizations in cybersecurity. And Jessica, Allison O, and Caleb have really done a great job of leading that effort. So kudos to them as well. So thank you. That's just a brief overview, and I'm really proud of them because they kind of just took it and ran with it, and they're having a great time with their kids with it.
John, I would ask that you delegate somebody to do some videoing at Community Day this year. We've missed out some of videos of that in the past, and I think that that is a great thing for us to share with future students and families and celebrate something that makes us different than a lot of other schools, right? That is a really big piece of our community and what we do. So please, if you don't mind, whether it's a student, that's fine if you want to do that, or part of one of the tech clubs or not, but I would really encourage some video of that day to then share out.
We have some kids that kind of do that on our campus, and I know that they'd have a great time with it and kind of put together something for the YouTube channel as well.
Thank
Great idea.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Miss Eileen.
Hey guys, it's nice to see you. We're all getting through this last week before spring break. Very excited. So it's funny. I feel like when John started talking, I was like, we're literally on the same wavelength because most of my notes are about field trips. It's perfect because that honestly is just like John said, like such a cornerstone of Montessori.
She'll come back. At least it froze her in a good spot.
Yeah.
That's always my concern, right?
Hello.
Oh,
you're
back.
back.
You froze for a second.
Oh, okay. Maybe I need to move. Sorry.
You were right at, it's a cornerstone of Montessori.
Yes. So it's so important in Montessori in that second and third plane is when the students are ready to explore beyond the classroom walls. So just like John said, and it's exciting that I think in elementary and then in secondary, we're kind of really digging into field trips and all the opportunities that students have, because we know Central Florida and beyond, like we're so lucky to be close to the Dolly and all these other places that you mentioned, St. Augustine, Kennedy Space Center, like it's exciting. So I know our elementary teachers are working hard to develop kind of a rotation of field trips so that, you know, most fourth graders go to St. Augustine and most go to St. Augustine in fourth grade. You may not go in fourth grade, but you're going to go when you're in upper elementary. So we're still going to have all those milestones. They just might be different years in our program. So if you have an upper elementary student, they have all gone to Astro Skate starting on Friday, and we finished, our last group went today. Our Monday group had a little excitement with the tornadoes, but we were all good. And I don't know about many of you guys, but I like grew up going to the skating rink on the weekends, and how many kids had been like, I've never gone skating. So I think it was really cool. And just hearing from the teachers, like it was one of those trips that, you know, I know we said physics and there's a little bit of education, but truthfully, it was like fun and community building, and they had a great time and they learned perseverance, and some of them learned a new skill. They might never have skated before. And it was cool to talk to the teachers about kids who were a little like wobbly or unsure at first, and by the end they're lapping everybody and having a great time. So we appreciate our Upper L teachers and all our chaperones for planning and executing that. Upper L is also busy with presenting their book festival projects. So that's a big part of our upper elementary, is the big projects they do every quarter. And this quarter they've done book festival projects. So they've all had a book of their choosing. They have looked at all the different elements.
Oh, no. Take it back. Oh, they're good.
A game or a poster or something to their classmates about that book. So we're excited to see those this week. And then lower elementary is going to go to Orlando Shakes. They're going to see Stuart Little in April, so April 22nd. It's a great opportunity to really practice the grace and courtesy we talk about so much in another setting. So that's very exciting. And they're also gearing up for International Day. So I know, Stacey, you're talking about kind of like what makes us unique, you know, and it's all these different programs that have just become things that we do every year, you know, things that students look forward to and families look forward to. So if anyone's new to us, every class picks, it's usually a continent, sometimes the country. There's been like a little bit of leeway, and there's tons of research that happens. So, you know, it's just fantastic for kids to learn the research process. And then they just create things that are fantastic. They create boards, they create posters, there's collaboration. Like, again, so many of those important skills that we know, those executive functioning skills, are tied into things that we do in the classroom. So we're excited to see everything in International Day. And spirit shirts, everybody can wear a spirit shirt on Thursday, and that's always a big question right before a holiday. So spirit shirt and jeans on Thursday. We'll also have our safety patrol selling popsicles. They do a fantastic fundraising. Miss Nikki and Miss Tanya, they did a great job at the Spring Fest, and all of that is to really help them to cut the cost of the Universal trip in May for our sixth graders, who we appreciate keeping everybody safe during Carline. So I think that's all from me. So we're just excited about a busy week and field trips and lots of projects going on in elementary.
Thank you, Eileen, for stepping in this week too while Kathy is gone. Appreciate that. And I did see the videos of the Astro Skate, and they were amazing. So we should feel free to post a couple of those on the Facebook page, because that was a lot of fun. So
Good. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Other operational things. So we are switching to school financial services. So far that seems to be running smoothly. I know Alicia and Lily have been online with them several times. And so that switchover will be April 1st. So we'll have that going on.
support quick, like work when you reach out, or
Yeah,
return times.
Yeah, so far we've been meeting almost every week, going in depth into what they're gonna be taking care of, how we're gonna be able to work together. So one of the key things I keep mentioning is communication is key. Like, we really need to, you know, talk all the time. Ask me all the questions. I'm great on asking questions. So so far it's been positive. I have no complaints. And so once we get our foot on the ground and going, which is April 1st, and we get our hands on everything and how things are really going, that's when we're really gonna know how everything works. But so far,
Good.
it looks good.
Thank you. Good.
And so we actually, Alicia, Lily and I, have been working on the budget even today, just going through line by line salaries, those kind of things. The goal is to have it done by April. It may be May. Lily has worked with, the lead, Amanda Eldridge is over School Financial Services to help us with a template. Like we have ours, but if they have something easier that we can streamline, but, we have actually just been going through every line by line salary schedule, trying to make sure all of that's solid so we can bring to you to say, here's where we're at financially. We so I sent an email to principals, I think it was last week, and said, okay, I want us to create a working document of things that we need to address before the 25-26 school year. So, those things that we know we have to look at, student handbooks, there's some, tweaks to those kind of things, but also our evaluation process, all of those big ticket things that we need to get done before next school year. So when they get back from spring break, we're going to meet and start kind of dividing and conquering to say, what are those big things that need to be in place to start the new school year while they're fresh on our mind. I know it's hard, some people to say, well, we're still in this one, but as administrators, you're always planning the next year ahead. So that has already been created. And we're working through, and then I'll do the same thing with our operations side and then the business office side to say, okay, what are those big things that we need to make sure that we have ready to go? Alicia did get out letters of intent, so those will be back due Friday. On that, we also added the section of, would you like to do something different? And if so, here's some options to get that information. I did go ahead and contact the city of Ocoee because our SRO contracts ran out this year. And so they acknowledged that they received my request for a new one, but they said they're still trying to work through things, which I think that means they're trying to work through OCPS and kind of battle that negotiation. So if I don't hear from him after spring break, I'm gonna kind of call back and say, okay, we need to know for budget purposes what direction we need to look at.
Right.
So hopefully we'll be able to have that before our next meeting.
And
Okay.
if that option is not an option, right,
Right.
then we would have to go with.
The other option would be guardians,
Mhm.
which OCPS, they have made us put out like what our preference was. Of course, I put out SRO.
Yeah.
But they are starting, OCPS is actually going to implement guardians, I think, for the majority
I
of
was
theirs
thinking
versus
that that's
SRO.
coming.
Yes, because I think they can't agree on contracts through the city, through the county, so it's a big mess right now. And so they are doing a training for guardians. They're putting that together, so they wanted all that information. Gina is our representative for OCPS, and so I told her, I said, our goal is always to have an SRO,
Mhm.
but if that's not an option, then we will have to look at something different.
Yeah, okay.
So, but we'll see what the city comes back with. They've always been so good to work
Yeah,
with us,
they are.
and then to find people to cover, because there's so many strict guidelines around that.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that they will still play nice and
Yeah,
be able to do
be an
that.
option, absolutely.
And the last thing I just threw on here was I just received an email from Arnold Law Firm over the Disney. So just a little short story for those that don't know, Disney, I know.
I don't know if I want to hear
Yeah,
this.
it's actually not bad.
That one sounds good.
It's good. So there's in the middle of a tax fight among Disney and Orange County, not the school, but the actual county, where there was a potential that we would have to pay back as a charter school, our portion up to, I think it was $545 a child. So it's about $500,000. Every April that they don't solve it, it was another $75 a kid. So long story short, we were all in a little bit of a panic of what do we do? We had a meeting first with Arnold Law Firm, and they were like, well, you need to start putting money back. We don't know. But he just sent it today at 5:30, so got in the nick of time.
Thank you, Sean.
Yes, that they are still having good conversations, and trying to come up with a strategy of how do they work with Disney to kind of forgive the tax portion that belongs to schools. And so their biggest thing was, one, don't panic yet. They also say that they don't believe there's going to be any clawback for any monies anytime in the foreseeable future. That they're thinking that it's going to wait until the Florida legislative session is up, and then maybe meet, late spring, early summer to get back together and still talk about things that they could go to the 2026 legislative session for. So and they said that the case could be going on for a few more years.
Yeah.
So right now he's like, I think it's a positive, but it's going to be very slowly. That right now we don't need to panic and put back a lot of money. Of course, there still may be an impact, but his biggest advice was, I would not suggest any school to take any action at this time, such as starting some PR campaigns or anything like that.
Right.
So it does make me feel a little better, because we were talking about with the budget, like, what does that look like? How much time we don't know how much time we would have to pay it back. It could be 30 days, it could be 10 years, like we don't know. So at this point, I'm just gonna keep rolling with our normal 5% that we put back, and then we'll kind of see what that looks like. So that just came across me.
Did they, just so implications moving forward, right? Then the budget has been, or the taxes have been corrected for those organizations moving forward, right? So then it would only be the backfill
Right.
that would be even a part of the conversation. So like next tax season, the number is set and corrected, right?
Right. Unless they change that. That was my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I just was.
This was backed up from 2015.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're backing on. Now, of course, other larger organizations could jump on that, but this is just one portion of Disney that's even filing, but they did say Universal and SeaWorld was already starting theirs. So we'll see how long people will play nice.
It was only Beach Club, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. So I'm not gonna lie, I was a little panicked there for a minute.
Just for Beach Club.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the big update.
To the board.
Yeah, I know. Congratulations, Sarah. The other big thing that we wanted to talk about, and I'm actually going to let Stephen kind of lead this, was I had asked Stephen and Tito to put together some capital projects. What we found was the changes and the moving of building this building and then everybody just moving around. There was nothing really kept that said, hey, this is how old this piece of equipment is, or this is how old the roof is, those kind of things. And so I've asked Stephen and Tito, and I know it took them some time and digging to share with you, not everything, but the big picture of things as we start guiding the budget of what does that projection look for the next 5 years? What does on all of the capital assets that we have? So I'm going to let him share.
Thank you. So one of my things that I've talked about being in this role is I want to make sure the school outlives all of us, right? This place is so special, and just to kind of frame that discussion, I was outside about 20 minutes ago walking around our property thinking, nowhere else have I ever worked, no other school that I've ever been to, do I have this much green space, this beautiful of a campus. I say the same thing about the secondary campus. It's absolutely gorgeous. We spend a lot of time, and that's a testament to Tito and his team, and our parents who come in and help. So the buildings are special, the school is special, and I want to make sure we always remember that. What we did is we looked at big capital projects with an eye towards what are your big costs, right? Our buildings are starting to age. We live in Florida and it's getting hotter. So the kind of high level overview that I put together for you, and I know there's 2 of them, but the capital projects overview, it talks about the age of the buildings. My biggest concern today is the air conditioners in our buildings. Okay. A commercial air conditioner in Florida is rated 10 years. Sometimes you can get 12, but you really are looking at the 10-year mark. So when you look there, I broke it down by building, and those are the addresses of all of our campuses. The first ones that are going to be the problem are probably going to be at the secondary campus. Okay, and that's 2 reasons. A, that building is a year older than this one. Also, that building sat vacant for 2 years, and vacant buildings in Florida, they age exponentially. Okay, So you see we've got 6 on the ground at primary, 3 on the ground at the NPR, 23 on the roof in this building.
Where are you looking? What am I missing?
There's an attachment in board docs and capital
Okay.
projects under the admin section.
Oh, am I not signed in? Let me make sure. Sorry, guys. Ignore me. My bad. That's why I'm like, why am I not seeing the document?
And then 8 major roof units for the high school. Those are for the classrooms and then 1 for the cafeteria. We had an estimate from Train. They came out and looked at the cafeteria and the secondary campus about 8 months ago. It is actually controlled by, they call it a central building control unit, right? They don't have thermostats like what you're used to. They have a controller unit. So that entire system is replaced as a system. So, you know, you can kind of look at what the projected costs on those were. But basically you're looking at a potential liability in the next 24 to 36 months of $700,000. Now, not every one of those air conditioners is going to fail on the same day, we hope. But they're aging out.
How is the maintenance on them? Like, I mean, are they any of them showing stress, like whenever maintenance is done, or?
You know, they're in Florida, they're going to show stress. We do have maintenance contracts on them to upkeep them,
Yeah.
but that doesn't prevent major failure. That is to keep them clean, to keep the filters changed, you know, to replace little belts and stuff like that. But when we have Webster Heating and Air is our vendor, they cover both campuses for us. They're wonderful to work with. But they are advising me that it's time
Okay.
and that we need to be prepared that it's time. I would expect, you know, we had last year, as soon as the heat starts coming in.
Yeah. That's when they started going.
We start seeing failures.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard part about an air conditioner is as soon as it goes, that classroom is uninhabitable.
Yeah.
So it becomes an emergency for us. It's not something we can really defer at that point. So that's kind of my first concern.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on the ACs?
What's the replacement cost per unit?
Depends on which unit it is.
Yeah.
If they're on the ground, they're a little cheaper. We figure about 10,000. If they're on top of the secondary building, the cafeteria one is going to be somewhere around 30.
Okay, that makes more.
You know,
Yeah.
because you're running a crane, you're
Yeah.
doing a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if I have my choice of which ones go out, I'd rather be NPR because they're easier to replace.
Right.
But
You don't get to pick.
I don't get to pick.
No.
I don't get to pick, and I don't want to live without air conditioning floor.
No.
Other items, just so that you're aware.
Sorry, one more thing real quick,
Okay.
Stephen. Any chance we could purchase a small unit, portable unit for temporary situations in case emergencies come up, for said classroom or room?
We can look at it.
Yeah. Just to price out to see if it's
Yeah.
worth, just until we could, because you know, all that stuff always takes time too,
Sure.
especially if it's an upstairs unit.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I hesitate to have a lot of that on hand because then I'm spending money for things I'm not using. But we could absolutely look and see what that is. Because that would at least
Or
keep-
rent, can you rent those even?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
We may be able to source them from the community, but they do have a very small output.
Space,
Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
Like they're gonna cool down maybe like a 10 by 10 foot
Yeah,
area, so we
yeah.
would need to be running a lot of them.
Yeah,
They also have vent issues because none of our windows actually open.
right.
So as I'm kind of thinking about this, I'm thinking about how I vent the hot air outside,
Mm,
and I don't know that I would have a way to do that.
There's
I will
also
say
the-
that, for Webster being so wonderful to work with as
Yeah.
a vendor, when Mr. Tito calls them and says we have an air condition issue, I usually have a tech here about same day.
okay.
So
Oh, okay.
I'm really, really appreciative of our vendor partners.
Okay.
And that's incredibly helpful.
I think John, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, there's also the water. It pulls the water out and you have to
Yeah.
move the 5-gallon buckets of water everywhere.
I moved
Yeah.
enough.
I
times.
trip over them. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
They would go everywhere.
Tito and I never carry another 5 bucket gallon of water. We'll be good to go.
Anything else on
I
the
know
air
you were-
conditioners?
I guess do you have like a rolling plan? I mean, you talked about how we have a lot of AC
Sure.
units.
So my plan is I I wish that we lived in a world where we had $20 million sitting in the bank. We don't. I don't want to preemptively replace things.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
What I have asked Heather to do in the budget and what we've sat down trying to work through is I need, when it fails, to have enough money to go solve the problem.
Mhm.
If we get to a point where we are lucky enough to have, residual money sitting out there, or if we can find a grant for it, then of course we would do preventative stuff.
Right,
But right now, I'm kind of I want to be able to respond to a failure.
yeah, especially in air conditioning.
And I feel like we're actually in a pretty good place for that.
Mhm.
So a lot of that was Heather and the team coming together and actually making the budget as strong as it is.
Yeah.
Other things on there, parking lots. They're supposed to be resurfaced every 5 to 7 years. Ours haven't ever been done. That's actually sealing the asphalt, and that's what keeps it from degrading on you. That's not an immediate concern for me, but it's something that you absolutely should be aware of.
Mhm.
Because we're gonna have to do it eventually. The next one for me is building painting.
Mhm.
Your building should be painted every 7 to 10 years. There are a multitude of reasons for that. The big cost driver on this campus is all of the metal. Our buildings are gorgeous, the metal looks wonderful, but to paint that is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
So you're looking about $80,000 for this property. Unfortunately, it's high. My custodians can paint inside of classrooms. They do that every year.
No, that's.
But to do the outside,
Yeah.
I don't have the
Yeah.
ability to do that.
Yeah.
And we have multiple bids for
With somebody
that.
with insurance.
We have multiple bids for that, and that was the average of them.
Okay.
The good news on that is the secondary campus is good until about 2029.
Okay.
So we have time on that one. And then the other thing you look at is the roof. I feel really good about where we're at. Yes, we have some leaks. We addressed those.
Mhm.
But they're membrane roofs. We're looking between 2036, 2035.
Okay.
So I feel like we're in a pretty good spot there. And then the last thing, and this is something I could not find a lot of information about. I know Dave and Patrice did a drainage project at some
Yeah.
point. It was just the humble IT director at that time, so I
Yeah.
wasn't really involved in it. We have drainage issues on the back of the property.
Right.
I don't have a lot of information about that. If you all have that, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
But as we start to see the development encroaching the other side of that property where we're building the baseball fields,
Yeah.
that's going to make our property retain water more.
Mm.
So we want to start thinking through drainage, and that's
Yeah.
going to be an engineering project.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody ever comes out here, but if they do, or if any of the engineers are coming over to look at land or, I mean, it might even be worth us touching base with St. John's Water Management to be like, this is where we are currently.
Mhm.
If that water increases due to their building, what is the next step to be done? Right? Because then that should be on the building.
Sure.
Kelly's building responsibility, not ours, when the water level changes. So before that, they start really excavating over there. I think that we should definitely touch base with St. John's just to make sure we have a contact there
Sure.
and who's the person for them and doing that construction so that we have numbers and people we can kind of get a hold of. As for the drainage of the lakes, the ponds out there and for that piece, I mean, when we added the soccer field, sorry, I apologize. It was a long process. Was potentially supposed to be a building before, but because of the amount of drainage, right, became a soccer field. We could reach out. I could follow up with, oh my gosh, what's his name, Heather? With the construction.
There's Justin.
Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could follow up with Justin, thank you. To see if he has any recommendations or connections for us to take a look at that.
So I remember they dug the whole backyard up here,
That's what I was gonna
but
say.
I don't have any of those plans. I've never
Yeah.
been able to find those. So
Yeah.
if we could find them, that would be a good thing for our kind of book of
Yeah,
plans.
let me dig into that.
Because I don't even think when I went through old files that I actually saw. like,
Yeah.
written
I don't-
Plans. I know when I came in, that was when they were finishing that
Yeah.
and they had said that they had already dug.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they were.
Well, and I think too, to be honest, some of the additional work was because when they started to do it, they noticed that the water wasn't moving, and so then they had to go farther into it than they thought to make sure that we didn't miss the water, right? Like to get it into the pond and the drainage lines. But you're saying that that is not, like, students can't go on that area because it's got
Yes,
too
ma'am.
much water on it, right? So we have to look at what other draining options could we have? I mean, really, it's gonna probably be increasing the size of the retention pond.
Well, so my first kind of concern is all of the downspouts on the outside of the building.
Uh-huh,
They run down and they're dug under the ground somewhere,
yes,
and they end somewhere.
yes,
I have no idea where that is. There should be out at the far end of the property, a storm sewer between the two ponds.
yeah.
I don't think they're connected down there.
No, I don't think they are either, because
We-
that other grate that's right out here.
Yep.
I think it was put in there afterwards
So all of the water is draining off of the building
into the land.
into the land, and
Yeah.
it's just becoming saturated down there.
Yeah.
So that's the things that I wish we had some more historical knowledge, if you can find me.
Yeah.
Because that, if we
We could
complete
extend
that
them.
piece, that may solve your problem.
If we could just extend those pipes farther out into
Yep.
that piece. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
you actually need the original. So it's not even from the current the building here is really what you need, because then you would need to see where the drain pipe. So it wouldn't even have been the second construction, it would have been the first.
no, the first construction just dumped the water out here at the end of where the picnic tables were.
Okay.
The second construction was when we did the soccer field, I remember that, and they dug all of that up and ran piping.
Okay.
It's where that piping terminates that I
Okay.
need to know.
Okay.
So that's kind of my concerns from the physical building side. You know, there are things every year like cleaning storm drains and stuff like that. Those aren't really capital intensive. Those are things we operationalize. Now can I talk about IT?
Sorry. Yes.
Anything else on like
Change your
the
hat.
physical part of it?
No,
Okay,
thank you.
so remembering that I'm always going to be an IT director, and this is exciting for me to talk about. You know, I wanted to give you an overview of our IT assets, what we own, what's going to need to be replaced. That way we can be thinking about the cost behind that. So different document, same concept. You can see there the devices we have and the justification for them. You can also see the warranty expiration dates. My kind of big goal for the summer is to transition secondary to an all iPad campus. I want to highlight something there. Something Dr. Pagnotti is doing a wonderful job of with his CTE certs. By starting the process of that rolling, he is developing a revenue stream. I have never been able to tell you before how I saw technology at secondary being sustainable, right? It's really hard for me to come and ask you to write a $250,000 check every 4 years.
Yeah.
With what Dr. Pagnotti is doing, he is going to be creating a pot of money that can be used to sustain the technology at secondary. I think it's wonderful, and I think it's absolutely an innovative idea. At the same time, we're teaching the Montessori practical life skills. So I just want to call that out, and what a wonderful thing to work with him and his team on that has been. So I want to transition the secondary campus to the iPads. And as part of that, we're looking at developing a plan to work towards something called an Apple Distinguished School. It's a prestigious title. It's a quest to get there, but there are all sorts of grants that can come with that. It also is a marketing thing, right? Like we become this really important, center for innovative digital learning. And what I tell people all the time is, if I was going to design a computer for a Montessori campus, for a Montessori student, it's this. It's an iPad. They can do art, they can do music, they can be creative, they can work in their space, they don't have the constraints of a PC. So I think that is something very important that we look at this year.
With very good covers.
So, and this is actually the coolest part about this. We've
That's just
done
me or
iPads in upper elementary this year.
Yeah.
I had
Knock on wood.
okay. I had told
How long
Heather
did you let Lakin hold it?
I have had exactly one of them need to go for warranty. And it was not something that a student did. It was actually something the IT director did when he was learning how to set them up. So the kids have been great with them. The
Yeah.
covers are wonderful. I think that the longevity of the iPads, especially for secondary, will give them a better canvas
Mhm.
to really create the program that we want to create over there.
No, I think there's a lot more possibilities with moving to iPads for the kids for sure. And, you know, I think the technological piece of the programs that are available and the things that the kids could do with it makes the most sense. I mean, you talk about like your STEM projects, right? Like puts you right on the board there. What's the cost difference?
I'm actually gonna talk about that.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Apple Distinguished School Status? Like, what does that give you?
Sure. So A, it's something that's world recognized. B, there are all sorts of grants that come with that. There's
Like a
also
discount.
potentially.
Like grants from Apple? Like grants? From
Grants from Apple. There are grants from just organizations.
Okay.
Okay, and it gives you, because you're familiar with this piece of technology, it gives you opportunities in the workforce.
Dr. Pagnotti, would you share with the board how many certifications you've already had passed so far, and then you can go.
As of Friday, it was 220, 210, 220-ish. We had 100, and this was just, it's kind of set up. You have 3 opportunities to take. There's 10 different certification exams that we already have available to us through our CIW partners, which is the certification board. One of the tests, each test you have up to 3 opportunities. In the first go around, we had 120 kids pass out of 150 on their first go. And the way it works out, I'm going to give you 2 numbers that are equivalent. Each pass is a 0.025 FTE, which equates to about $100 ish, depending on where the legislature it lands for the FTE dollars. Now, the high school FTEs, certification exams are, 4 times that, but they're also much more difficult. There's more strings attached to it. And those are the ones that you would take to an employment place and say, hey, listen, I am an Adobe certified technician. I do. So this is kind of a lower scrutiny, but also accessible for only our middle school students. Once they hit 9th grade, it doesn't apply anymore. They have to be really it's available through 8th grade, but the sweet spot really I've seen it somewhere between 5th and 8th. So we have the first go around we had 120 pass. On the second test we had 65 pass the first go, and that's about where I would expect each one to go with. The pass rates are about 50 to 80%. So theoretically, 220 have passed already. That's already a pot of money, about 20,000.
And that's only kids at secondary, right? That's 7 and up. So we're not even incorporating the 6th graders here on primary campus.
Yeah, and I want to really highlight this because it's not just taking a test so we can get a pot of money. These are practical life, IT security, how to defend yourself from like phishing and hacking and stuff. These are
I take them every year. Yeah.
Yes, these
I'm
are
very
skills
familiar with what they are doing. Yeah.
So it's also some of the other topics that are within this suite are like there's some digital citizenship that is there as well. There's spreadsheets, Word documents, presentations.
Ethical use of GAI.
That's a different order suite, but so that's just one of the partners. And what the state of Florida did a couple of years ago is they took away the limitation on how many, and I don't know how long it'll stay, right? But there used to be a cap of 4 tests per kid per year. They took that cap away. So I want to give opportunity. The kids are doing it already. Why not recognize them for what they're doing? Because like Stephen talked about, it is real world skills. Like I have a 12-year-old myself and she does all these things, and I would like for her to have that credential that really motivates him. And if I talk to, I was talking to Jessica Smack, who's really helping out with this a lot, and she was talking about how the kids were motivated to show what they know. And they were really proud of what they did. So yes, it's a benefit to the school financially, but more importantly, it's the kids get to see something in real time that they passed that's outside of, it's intrinsically motivating. It's not a grade. You can't, I mean, I would never ask my students to, or my teachers to grade the students on these because it's just a thing that you do, right? It's not a pass fail. It's, hey, do you know it or you don't? And if you do, that's cool. Let's recognize that. So the kids are really motivated and they talk about it and they, our 8th graders will have the opportunity to take all 10. Our 7th graders will have 5, and then those 5 out of the 10. And so that means next year, the next set of those 7th graders will become 8th graders, and they can take the next 5 because you can't double dip. So I also would there's another suite of tests out there that talk about the Google platform. Same idea. It's about the same amount of upfront money to get these vouchers for these exams, but again, the kids can show what they know in Google, right? And they can and because they're using it already, right? So it really does give them a legitimate certification in a digital kind of in a digital skill set that they have and they need, right? These are things that they're going to need when they go into high school and when they go into college, and what better way than to start them now?
Hey,
So
Stephen and John. This is totally my jam. So if you need any help or want me to be involved in this, I would be thrilled to do that.
Love it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I want to say thanks for Stephen for, also, he did a lot. He purchased the vouchers for us the first go around. So that took he put a lot of faith in the idea. And so thank you.
We're becoming this innovative school, and what we've struggled for is what is the identity and what do we want to be? And as I think about it as an employer, right? I've hired technicians my entire career. I want technicians who can think. I want technicians who can problem solve. Congratulations, we create those people, right? This is an opportunity to really do something different, to do something amazing. And I think it will become a recruiting and retention tool when you go to the 6th graders who are becoming 7th graders and say, hey, we offer this.
Absolutely.
I think this is a really cool idea that's going to set us apart.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So to kind of talk about the money side
Yeah.
of it, because that's where I always
I'm
come
waiting.
So one thing, as we start to build these assessments, that is generated money that does have to go back into technology programs. So that's how we can look at funding some of these extra things. Stephen did get the quotes on the iPads. Apple does offer a leasing option. If you want to just explain briefly what that looks like.
So they call it leasing, and basically what it is financing.
Right.
Let's say that we take $200,000 in technology, they finance it for 36 or 48 months. They advise 36 because at the end of it, we own it, just like if you pay cash for it. And at 36 months, when you look at the value trend for iPads, that is when your resale value is the highest. So you buy the device, you pay it off. At the end of 36 months, the value is about 30%, 35, somewhere in there. You sell it to a reseller, you use that to fund the next group. It makes a lot of sense. So that's how they kind of make it affordable for schools.
Yeah. So it would work out for us if we looked at that about $6,000 a month. So of course, 72,000 a year. I know that's a lot of money, but I do think for instructional purposes, and as much as we're having to replace the computers, and there's things about the laptops right now that is not running great, not because of Stephen or anything else. It was just the type of laptop that was purchased. It doesn't, like on the security side of things, it doesn't allow us to monitor the way we want to be able to monitor, whereas this would actually lock it down to where we really could make sure kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I just think even instructionally, there's so many things teachers could do. Now I do, when I met with Stephen, is our teachers have to be trained on how to use these as well and what the purpose of that looks like. I just think it goes into the marketing piece of who are we? Yes, we're Montessori, but what makes us stand out on that secondary level while trying to be innovative?
So 1-to-1 ratio that we're looking at for the
Yeah.
high school, other secondary
So
school.
they currently have that
That's
now.
okay.
Yeah, they currently have that, but again, it's on computers that, you know, I'm just gonna be honest, that are just not equipped with what we.
Do they take them home now?
Yeah.
So when we bought the Dell Latitude 3120s, we did it with the ESSER money. And we had a certain amount of money by which we had to buy a certain number of devices.
Right.
They were not the devices we should have bought at the time. It was a business decision, is what it is. They are not, you know, the value curve on a laptop looks like this.
Yeah.
The value curve on an iPad looks like this when you look at value to performance. The iPads tend to age better.
Yeah.
They are much more secure. You know, a Windows laptop, I can go home with a thumb drive and I can basically wipe the device. And the kids are really smart and they do that. So you're playing whack-a-mole constantly. With an iPad, as soon as it connects to the internet, it connects back to our network and you can't do anything. It also, you know, from like an ESE perspective, this is the most powerful accessibility device that I can give somebody. I had a really great conversation with Angela, our staffing specialist here, about how to better accommodate students with disabilities, giving them the technology that they're actually going to leverage when they become adults. So I think it makes a lot of sense on every level, and I can't come up with a reason that it isn't a good idea.
Could we, when you look at purchasing on that, then too, like, would you be purchasing, like, I've seen like Notability, and I don't know if Kate has any insight on this stuff, but like, which then allows the students to just write on any sort of worksheet that they haven't submitted to the Canvas for their teachers to like grade and things like that. So I don't know if you've looked at that at all, but it's a very cool app that works with the iPads that
Sure.
makes it so much easier.
So what we did here was I went out and I did office hours with the teachers and said, what do you need? What do you want to use it for? I think once we provide them the canvas by which to use it, they will come up with the innovative apps and all of the gadgets that make learning more fun for them.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be in the business of, I've never thought IT should be in the business of saying, this is the software you have to use. I want to go the other way and say, I'm giving you this device.
Yeah.
I want you to use it to its absolute limit. How do I help you with that?
Yeah.
I have a quick question. So I love iPads and I think that they're amazing for all of the reasons you've mentioned. However, I can think of some use cases where I think a desktop is better suited, you know, thinking as we expand our technology programs, like coding on an iPad, you know, doing some of that more like nitty-gritty tech development. If we start to move in that direction, I mean, it's probably possible, but I just know the back-end tech configuration I've done, I was not able to do it on an iPad. Additionally, like writing, like essays. So I'm just thinking of just making sure that we're set up for that as well. Like, is there any thought of having a small computer lab or something where we've got some of those heftier machines available?
So that's a wonderful question. The iPad becomes their primary device, right? It replaces their laptop. We'll use some of the laptops that are still kind of under warranty for other projects. But the more and more I sit with Dr. Pagnotti and hear his ideas, I do see a world where we put in, and John, you can kind of talk to this, some higher end workstations to do those really cool projects that kids want to do.
So one of the things that Stephen and I have talked about is, and we've already kind of developed the master schedule as well for next year. And one of the things that we're going to work on and that we're going to bring, and I have to look at the numbers, but, you know, kind of diversifying our arts program. So we have traditional arts now, which is 2D and 3D arts, which John D does a great job. Some of the projects, if you've walked through the classrooms and in the hallways, beautiful artwork, and the kids produce all of that. It's really awesome. But he also told me that he has some experience on Adobe and Final Cut projects. So one of the things that we're working on is to bring a digital design 1 and 2 class, which is kind of it's part of what they call a career and technical education CAPE program. And we're going to begin that kind of digital arts as well. So Stephen and I have talked about, I believe we landed on 4 high-end iMacs that will begin our workstations, which is, that's Macs are the kind of the standard tool that a lot of these digital artists use. And he did also talk about, Stephen also did talk about how we're still going to have the laptops available and we could kind of back up labs and stuff like that. I do plan on making an esports facility as well, and I can imagine there will be some laptops and things in there as well. So we kind of want to take an all the above approach to technology in our campus. And I was just kind of doing some research about the Apple Distinguished Schools. There's only one other Apple Distinguished School in all of Orange County, and none of them are public charters or public schools. So it would be a really prestigious. It's not, hey, I bought iPads, I want to be an Apple Distinguished School. It's a process. But I do think that kind of this approach would in this process would really make us stand out, and help out some of our kids who are really interested. There's a couple of students that I can think of right now that can do magical things with a paintbrush, whether it's a digital paintbrush or a hand, like by hand. If you ever get the opportunity to go upstairs in the secondary campus, there's a little cove that this student has been working on. She'll finish it this year. She's a senior, I believe, and it's an amazing piece of art. And I would love for her to digitize that.
So I do think that, just listening to John and Stephen, and their ideas, I do think that that is the direction we need to go in. Would I love, like we talked about, well, we'd love for Upper Dale to have more, we'd love, like we do, and that would be our goal.
Right, one thing at a time.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And if we're really gonna start looking at those different innovatives, and I do agree with you, Kate, I do think there still has to be some of those PCs available as well, because there's some things on that we need to do. And my other goal too is to start bringing in, experts, like, we're talking about the note thing. I know they use that in college all the time, but those kind of things to say, okay, even if our teachers don't know it, let's also train our teachers on different innovative ways so they can start implementing in their classroom. So I really would like to look at our budget to see if we can squeeze in the $6,000 a month. And just kind of take some of the money that you had already raised for computers and then kind of put that towards it. So that is something, as I have a list of, okay, as we're crafting the budget, things that I know that needs to go in there, and then things that we really, really want to try to have. Because we know some staff devices need to be updated, so we'll have to put some money in the budget for that. Just some security camera things that we need to upgrade that we'll look at too, on both campuses. So there's things that we have already talked through that we know, hey, we have to start looking at. And kind of like with the ACs, I've already, okay, I've got to start. We put back the additional 2%, just so you all know. We have the mandatory 3%, and then we put back an additional 2% for capital projects, but ensuring that if we could bump that to 3% to start putting back for AC seemed to be the big thing that I'm really the most concerned about. Especially on the secondary campus. So start looking at planning that as well, of how do we pop that money in. So those were kind of the big projects that we were talking about on the budget. We do have to look at some of the other things like the painting and all of those kind of things as well. If we could figure out a way to ramp up fundraising.
Yeah. Well, we're talking on some enrollment numbers on
Yes,
things too, and I think that will really give us you guys have done an amazing job of putting us in a more secure place. And so now I feel like we're in a comfortable place where we can, give back to the school, and that is definitely a way that we can give back. So, while trying to still bring more kids in who want to come for that particular reason, and that's great. So
Absolutely.
I think that's the right track.
So that's the biggest thing, and I'm glad you brought up enrollment. That is something that, I've met with John already and said, hey, we have to hit this target at the high school, and then also with Kathy of how do we grow this program to where we're feeding more kids into the secondary building. And I'm going to put on the business side, and this is nothing like, trust me, I'm always going to be educational, but students equal money,
Mhm.
and that's how we operate through
Yeah.
the educational process. So I have to make sure that enrollment is at 100%.
Yeah.
And it definitely is lacking this year, and that is something that we are aware of. So getting out there and recruiting and trying to show everybody why they, why this is the best place to send your child is definitely the goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's really the biggest things that we've been working on. I just want to shout out to PTO for the Art Fest. They did a phenomenal job, and everybody that came. The campus looked beautiful, and so I really appreciate that. And then the staff, it's the week before spring break, and so it's hang on, but they're doing a wonderful job of ensuring that the kids are still being educated, even though they've got spring break right there that they can taste it. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good.
You ready to turn it over to
Karen?
Karen?
Yeah.
Karen, I think I saw you on there. Ready for you for your PTO update.
I'm coming on. Hang on.
There you are. Hey, Karen.
Hey, everyone. All right. So the fun stuff. Following up since January, I did want to share that we held the Family Stride Ride and Bounce Challenge. It was lots of fun and freezing, and a building, but we didn't end up raising any funds. So we are regrouping for next year and hoping that we can find our way back to raising some funds for our athletics program. I think between the fall being what it was with weather and storms, and then having just a wintertime, I don't know, fete, it didn't pan out. So we're going to try and go back to creating something in support of athletics. I've already started tinkering with it, putting the thinking cap on and talking with coach about it as well, so that we can get back to that in the fall. Someone's special dance was held. It was hosted in the secondary campus cafeteria on the 8th of February. We had, from our lower elementary families, we had 50 pair of one parent and one child. We had 2 pair of one parent, 2 kids, and then we had 13 additional siblings, which is a pretty big amount of kids and parents that were there. And then with Upper L, we had 50 pair of one parent, one child, and then an additional 5 pair of one parent with 2 kids. So it was great. It was glow party themed. We had food, a DJ who was wonderful. We did a little photo booth. It was well lit, lots of fun light up things. Seemed like everyone had a good time. So that was a blast. We also had this cool art project where we used neon fabric markers and let the kids decorate shirts. So something fun. Spring Arts Fest was fantastic. That went off beautifully. We had many talented students displaying visual art and performing different arts. We even had someone breaking boards, as in martial arts, which was cool. Let's see. At the Spring Arts Fest, we had a mural dedication, and there is a plaque that has been made that's going to go on the wall. Our thespians troupe led 2 improv workshops. PTO member led 2 painting workshops. We were able to obtain 8 sponsors supporting the event, which totaled $2,350 just specifically from that for fundraising. Safety Patrol and one of our microeconomies from high school fundraised at the event, and Safety Patrol killed it. They made just under $1,000 at that event alone. We did host a Support Your Teacher booth where a few teachers shared some of their outside of school fun things. We had candles and jewelry and original music. So pretty cool. And then I did share with Marissa a revenues and expenses table. Essentially, it looks like we netted approximately 4151. So we met our goal. Our goal was, I think, 4250 fundraising for technology in the Lakewood Avenue art classroom and then some supplies for both of our arts classrooms, our visual arts classrooms. And we're making it. So we're so excited that we met this, and Miss Laura is going to have all the things that she needs, including an amazing printer to help teach our students. So that's fantastic. We're really, really excited. So go team, go school. We did purchase plants for the in-between area between the road and the Casa Playground to provide some privacy for our youngest students. And we were excited. I think they've gotten into the ground at this point. I think Miss Hilda may have planted the green thumb that she is. Continuing with our teacher stipends, many have been dispersed. We're still inviting until close to the end of the year for teachers, including enrichment teachers, to ask for items from Amazon, from Montessori groups and stores. Every teacher gets 100, and we did invite classrooms to pool funds if they wanted to. And so quite a number of classrooms have done that. And so it goes up to 300 for a class, which has been fun. It's been a sea of Amazon boxes on my front stoop and foyer. So that's been a blast. Sea/tsunami is what it's felt like. We're still recruiting. We do still need a correspondence chair, fundraising chair, and the secondary 1 chair. Sarah Rigas is our secondary 2 chair and liaison, but we need someone for secondary 1 still. So we'd really love someone that is a parent of our 7th, 8th graders. Gardening efforts continue on both campuses on a monthly basis, and things are looking great as spring sets in. We do have another spring makers market coming. We have coupled it with a movie night that we had to cancel in the fall. We are going to show Wonka, and we are going to have a golden ticket that's going to be something fun that we're still deciding to make that alluring to our students, especially. That's on the 4th of April in the evening. It's Friday evening, and we are welcoming all ages and stages of students to participate in making and selling things. So parents are absolutely welcome to be a part of that with their younger students. And then Teacher Appreciation Week is April 21st through the 25th. So save the date. Information is coming out soon. Thanks for the support, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
All right, so that takes us to finance update.
So I will do it. I did upload just the financial packet that Building Hope put together for us. And as you read through, so they did a couple things just so you kind of know where we're at. They have separated now CASA out from our IMO, and that we didn't realize they had done that, and then that came about. So this one will actually include that. However, a lot of the CASA data was not correct, and so that is what is working behind the scenes. And so I know Lily has been working with her contact from Building Hope to ensure that's done, along with the retirement. So some of the numbers as you look through will look off. So for example, they put all of retirement in again this year into one pot, so into admin, instead of distributing across the right codes. So I say all that to say, though, overall, we're right on track of where we should be spending on our percentage wise. So remember, we did the budget revision. And so our percents are right where they need to be. And so there was nothing in here that were huge red flags of, oh no, we've overspent. The only thing was in operations, but we knew that was also hurricane related. But everything else, as you go through and look at our profit loss, and like we're on track. And so that made me feel better knowing that, okay, we're right where we need to be mid-year. We do also have the bond covenants in here. With the projection that on our debt service coverage ratio, we were 1.75. If you recall, we need to be a 1.10, so we're good with that. And then also days cash on hand, we were at 68 days, and our requirement is 60. Of course, we always want to try to cushion that a little bit in case things do occur, but we're on track with that. And then our reserves. And so that's kind of the overall. I do think once we can get the retirements fixed, also that we make the changes with CASA. I don't know, Lily, if there's anything that you want to add to that.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things I've been working with Anna from Building Hope is getting everything, cleaned up so that when we hit April 1st and move to SFS, everything's good to go.
Right.
So working with Building Hope and SFS has been a lot, and we also know transitions aren't easy.
Right.
One of the things that we looked at this week as we're looking at CASA, because the QuickBooks that we have is separated from our IMO, but there is somehow tuition money from CASA that shows in our IMO QuickBooks, and we need to clean that up. And so, I met with them and with Dana to figure out what was the best way to get all that pushed into the CASA QuickBooks. I mean, the numbers don't necessarily change. It's just making sure that they're in the correct accounts. As far as all of our revenue from July to date, that's all been cleaned up since January. So that's really good. And the only thing we're now really going through is the expenses, which honestly, it really isn't that much. It's just things that I'm going through each different code and making sure like, okay, this goes here. No, we got to move this here. But when we look at the overall picture of where our spending is and our revenue, it looks good. It's just kind of moving things around. And when I say it's not that much, I'm talking like little dollars and cents, which luckily I can pick up real quick. I'm like, oh, I know that doesn't go there. So then it's researching and working with Anna to put it back. The biggest thing with that is just the part that I struggle with is just that our QuickBooks are separate. Like I wish they were all just one, and it would be easier to manage that. But
is it going to be still separate moving with SFS?
I think it is because of the audit.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be separate. So
and coding, sorry to interrupt. Coding was an issue. Right when we moved into Building Hope and how we had coded previously. How are you feeling that coding will be moving into SFS? Is that going to align? Are we going to have issues with that transition, or do you think that this will match up perfectly?
Yeah, we shouldn't have issues as we work through the budget. And I know right now SFS is working on getting everything ready with our budget for next year. And so that's one of the things that we had to eventually sit down. They did tell us today that they want to make sure that when they get that budget template to us, that everything is good to go for us to start inputting numbers. And then we can sit and really make sure that we have the correct codes for everything. And as Heather said, like one of the biggest issues too was retirement and benefits, where everything was dumped into one account versus putting them teachers, admin, even operations and stuff like that. So that was a pretty tough one to get a report from Building Hope to be able to fix it. And we finally got it last week to the point I was like, okay, this looks good. Anna's working on it. We can get that all cleaned up. So I am really pushing that everything's done, ready to go.
Right, bro.
March 31st.
Okay.
We're good. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we are moving away from debit cards.
Thank you.
I am
Yeah.
very
Oh my
happy.
gosh, that's like been.
I'm very happy to
Not
announce
have
I actually got, they're called PEX cards.
Okay.
I actually received them this week. I'm holding on to them.
Yeah.
And then March 31st, I'm gonna distribute them out to those who are gonna have one with their folders and their policies.
They sign your life away.
Yes.
Yeah, the cool thing about that is everyone has their own account.
Yeah.
They get to manage it and stuff. I will oversee
Okay.
the whole thing with SFS, but it is one of the things that I did see that I liked about that.
Absolutely. We've had that
So,
conversation.
I know Steven's excited, Heather, I'm excited, so yeah.
Take stress off.
Absolutely.
And it's another example of like how, you know, we went from kind of an insular management team to now this collaborative team of like Lily and Alicia and Heather are giving Kathy, John, and I as operators the ability to operate better and more efficiently.
Yeah.
So like it really has been a team, and what they're working on is going to make my life so much easier. Like we're appreciative of that.
Yeah.
And so when you do, if you want some joy reading to look at our budget, like a perfect example would be like preschool. If you look at that code, it says we've only spent 35% of our projected budget. But if you go down to the admin, it will say that we've spent 83%. That's that retirement piece. So we'll be able to give you, it sounds like that's about the last few things. So then we'll be able to give you a true profit loss. So you'll see where we're at overall for each category. But you'll see like operations of plant was at 44%, but maintenance of plant, which is like those emergencies, is at 87%. And that's due to the hurricane stuff. So we're able now to explain, okay, why is that a little higher versus, oh, we're not sure where that's at. So it definitely, I'm excited that I can see a little bit of that end of, okay, we have everything coded correctly. Now we can start fresh. It's only taken, what, a year and a half? But we're getting there. So yeah.
Thank you for that update.
Okay. All right, we're going into committees. I don't know if we want to start with the executive committee or I can.
Do the other ones first.
Okay, so we do have a small update on the development committee. We have been meeting, Stephen, Carla, and I on an event that we're going to do on March 28th. It's 2 weeks from this Friday, and it's for our higher end donors who've participated in our annual giving, just giving through since we formally set that up over less than 2 years ago. So we had a donation from Total Wine, and so we're leveraging that to have a tour around Italy of wine tasting with a spaghetti dinner and just kind of group meeting with each other, like-minded people supporting the school. So just focus on that, hoping that goes really well.
Invitations been sent out for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an Evite.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do we have replies back on confirmation?
Yes, we
We've
have
got
13 so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of how
We
many?
have room for 30.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I will continue to do my follow-ups. Yeah.
If people want to come, what's the buy-in price?
There's a cap on the room.
There's a cap.
Fundraising.
Yeah.
When we get a week out, we may change things up.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah.
if they want to be a part of that group and come and enjoy it, then it's, we might have an open spot. Okay.
Well, if you're thinking, we'll have to think that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Let me know what you have left and maybe we can see about, I can reach out to you and find those spaces to like a donor space of some sort, maybe from outside the school to come and participate. But we can use that as an additional funding.
Okay.
Even sponsors that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think about like, might be an option, but we could even invite some city of Howie people in there, right? Like our city development chamber. Always reach out to Rusty to offer that too, because we're gonna hold it. It's not gonna be it's gonna be
No.
it's off campus, right? We're gonna do it at
The downtown Total Wine.
Downtown.
East Colonial. It's off of
Oh,
408.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right, yeah. Okay.
And you said there's spaghetti?
Eat the spaghetti. Do you want to come?
Spaghetti, it's not like different types of pasta.
I have not ordered it yet, but the idea is that it's an Italian themed. Yeah, yeah.
The tour is the wine part.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Really fun. All right. We add her a total wine.
And have Kate, do you have any updates for your committee?
Yes, I actually am looking for a little bit of help. I've been working with someone on the county level. So basically our insurance denial didn't come back until after the FEMA cutoff. I've been working with someone at the county to try and get an extension on that. So we were back and forth for about a month, and then he told me that the county couldn't help and I need to go to the city. So if anyone has anybody's at the city who I could contact to discuss this, if you wouldn't mind passing those along, that would be great, because that's my next step.
With Ocoee, the city.
With the city of Ocoee, yes. County is pushing us off to the city.
I'm sorry, recap that for me one more time.
Yeah, and sorry, I sound like a chain smoker.
No, you're good. I'm just
Yes. So I had set up our account for that FEMA federal funding after the hurricane, but we couldn't submit it until we got our insurance coverage back. So when we found out that we weren't going to be able to use insurance in January, it was already past the FEMA cutoff rather. So I reached out to our local advocate at the county. His name is Austin Beagley, I think, to see if we could get an extension on that. And he had been back and forth with some of his contacts who, I guess the final word was that they can't help us. We need to go to the city where our school is.
So then we would need to reach out to some sort of FEMA contact within the city.
In Ocoee, yeah.
All right, I'll look into that.
All right, thanks, Stacey. Yeah, that was about it for grants for this month.
Thank you, Kate. Feel better. Am I good? Anybody else?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right, and to our community, you saw our post or my post last week sometime, maybe it was this week, whenever that was, that Heather is looking to engage in a little bit more family support time on her end. So we are just looking into that process. We have opened up an executive director position on Indeed, and we are collecting information. Thank you to Alicia for helping through this process. I think when I counted, I think 19 is what I had seen when I looked at it later.
Early on Indeed, we've got about 11 on LinkedIn.
Okay. So right now we're just in the process of collecting that information to see potential candidates. We'll probably close that. I have to talk to you about that because I know that if you close it, what does it look like for reopening? Isn't there an issue there with like Indeed on that?
So we just have to reopen that
The same one. Okay. All right. Well, then that's good. So we'll probably end up closing that up towards the end of March and compiling that list and going through potential people in that space. We are still looking at organizational structure and what that looks like for our school, and who is supporting on an administration leadership team structure. My goal, I think Heather has done amazing work for our school and getting us into such a safer, more secure place over the last few years. So full transparency to our school community. My goal is to keep her as long as we possibly can. And I will make that very, very clear. She has just been dynamic and thoughtful and over the top in every single avenue to make sure that we are just doing what is best for our students. And her focus has always been with a student in mind, first and foremost, and then moving out from there. So I say all that to say that if there's a way for us to continue with her, I will find it. So full transparency there, team. But we are going through the process because we want to make sure that we have candidates that we can put in place. One of the things we're looking to is obviously we always want to try to find people who really value, understand, if not breathe the Montessori world a little bit. And that is a hard ask. That is something that is hard to find, even for teachers. We've got upper L teachers that have been posted multiple times for a while, and it is tough to find teachers in the state of Florida right now. And kudos to all the teachers that we have. We do appreciate you. We know that the job is not an easy one, and some days are amazing and some days are not. And you just have those days. So we are continuing to look for teachers as well for multiple positions, upper L, lower L, MTSS support, ESE. I think we just reposted for our school counselor as well. So I just say that to say that we are continuing to look for talented, dedicated teachers and staff to support our school and the Montessori focus here of supporting our students from a whole child perspective. So if you know anyone, please have them apply. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me and have a conversation, or reach out to Heather and have a conversation, because we definitely want to, we have space, we want to continue to grow. We're looking, we've got some empty classrooms on primary campus, not primary campus, on the elementary campus. We will be filling those empty spaces moving into next year. So we have a full body of students and staff here in the fall. So if you know someone, have them reach out, have them touch base, have them ask. But we are definitely looking to grow. We have that specific need with support for looking for somebody to support our ESE students as well in TSS process. So if you know anybody in that world, send them our way. The school counselor world, send them our way. But there's a process, and I just wanted to keep the community kind of looped in and updated on where we are. But you can see it's still a little bit up in the air, and we've got some work to do this spring. So that's what we will be doing. And the executive committee will be meeting and making some decisions on organizational structure for the school, but just making sure that we've got the best people in the positions possible. Any questions on any of that?
I do have a question, as far as like kind of recruiting people we know. We're such a different school,
Yeah.
right? And like they may not want to take the leap to apply, but maybe if they heard about or got to see the school, or like, oh, this is different than other schools. Like I'm just thinking of a mechanism so they can have almost like a look at what we're about to intrigue them to apply.
Well, we do have Kathy's recording, right, from when we did COVID. She did record the tour. So I would say if there was, don't we have that? Steven's looking at me like I'm crazy. He gave me a look.
Before my time, COVID was before my time, but if not, I think Kathy gave us the best Montessori tour on the planet. So
Yeah, I'm sure we recorded it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should have a recording for that. So
We
maybe
should.
that's something that we could even put on our homepage, right? Like as a piece of that, because that was something that we were using then. So see if we can dig that up from the Google Drive somewhere. Maybe that exists. If not, then, after she gets back, maybe she could record another one for us. I say that with her not being here, of course.
Right. Well, and then also even on the secondary campus.
Yes.
Because I don't think people.
We don't have a tour of that either, a virtual
Yeah,
tour.
sure. No, like we
Yeah.
have a virtual. I know they just had one for potential parents.
Mhm.
But cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure that there is a group of students who could even maybe put that together on the secondary campus, but we've got to get that media club up and running over there. I feel like that is just really a need for us.
So I will see Allison on here. So but it wasn't Allison, it's Chantel, sorry. Wrong person. We do actually have videos now going. It's it's been a little rocky because I want to share them, but it's, they've had tests on certain days and those kind of things, but they are up and sharing
Good.
their, what's going on at the secondary campus. And like this past week, they included things that was on the primary. So the goal is, once we get that cleaned up, that it's going out to all of the community too.
Good.
So that is happening. Stephen got them the device. The teacher's been working with them. It's just been a little rocky because it's their Wednesday recording day, and that's
Mhm.
been a little crazy. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think definitely by next year it'll be really strong.
Yeah.
So
So if there is somebody, right, I mean, I feel like they could absolutely contact Heather or I, and we'd be happy to like
Okay.
give them a, if they're interested, but they don't know.
I could piggyback on Marissa's idea if with a mechanism, if we could have a pipeline with like College of UCF education,
Yeah.
whereas like a board member could go and present and get opportunities for substitute or student teaching when they can earn a little money in school if they reach their academic threshold, and then that's like a very good peak, and then we can start getting the word of mouth. If there's a way to present in front of them to kind of advertise our school.
Yeah, the Valencia is starting this coming fall will be their first full-time teacher program that's starting there. So that is where I'm going to try to reach out to them and connect and see what we can do to connect, because I think that would be key to have some more student interns, because if we can do student internships with our teachers here, then that training, right, is so valuable that they get with the one-on-one with the teachers. I know that you included clinical ed on that survey, right? Or you
did not put them on the survey.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
something else.
All right. I think that
And then John is linked in to
he is
UCF. He
UCF,
teaches
but
at
he teaches
UCF.
there, so he's kind of. Yeah, I see him popping on.
he's
He's like, wait a minute, I have to say.
He's like, oh, I gotta come on. I gotta stop eating my dinner.
If they have an open house night or something where we could present, where we could showcase who we are.
Right.
And then Alicia, you found something on a Saturday, like on Saturday. What was that you just
The
shared?
teaching,
Yeah.
the Great Florida teaching,
Oh,
the
yeah,
job
yeah.
fair.
When is
Coming up
that?
April 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know
It's
John, he
Saturday.
does actually teach the secondary program once they get to student teachers.
Yeah.
But I think he shared before, the problem is they're already snatched up before then.
Right.
So he's working with other professors to say, how can we back that up and get to them before? Because once they do their student teaching,
Yeah.
those schools are pulling them in.
Yeah.
So I think that's.
Now we snag them left and right.
Yeah, I know you did.
Advertising on the handshake and on the
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would just reach out in some sort of whatever your staff newsletter is to see if who has clinical ed and who is interested in. I mean, that's like 6 hours, I think, to get clinical ed. Maybe 8, something like that. It's like 3 sessions, 2 weeks, whatever. But then if we have those teachers, right, then we have a place for them. But if we don't have those teachers, we don't have a place for them anyways. So. And I would say we really want our Montessori rock star.
That hot honey chickens.
Hey, Marissa, you all are on mute.
Okay, can you hear us now?
I can, yes.
Okay.
We actually, you're talking about for volunteers for parents. Actually, we contacted the law firm to say, what do we need to do? So we're going back and looking. It was stated if it was, that they do know a number of schools that have in their policy that if they don't meet the volunteer, they do lose enrollment.
And they have to go back
And
into
they have
the
to go
lottery.
through re-enrollment. And so what we have to look at is to say, back at our application, but so he's gonna work, Braxton is gonna work with Kathy and I on that.
Oh, good.
And I hate to go that route,
Right.
but it's a need.
We need an involved
That's
school.
part of being
Yeah.
there, and I know just about every other charter does that.
Yeah.
And so I put out in the newsletter to say, hey, we're gonna start pulling those hours.
Yeah.
And so, was trying to get more people in to say, we are looking at that this year.
Yeah.
Like that's part of the being enrolled in our community was that you would volunteer the 20 hours. So yeah, so we'll go through that. And so a shout out to anybody that's listening to this that hasn't done it is.
Yeah, I saw a bag of rugs as we came into the school. I'm like, somebody I hope is going to pick these up, take them home and wash them. They were still out there as we were coming in the picnic. So I put them out there. I think there's a couple hours right there. If you know, swing by and pick them up tonight.
Hey Heather, I might have missed some of this when I couldn't hear you all, but is that something that we're going to be communicating to folks that we're taking that more seriously? Okay. Yeah, because I know for a while it was quite loosey-goosey. So
yes.
Yeah, I put it out in January to say, hey, it's your time to get onto additions and start logging your hours because we are looking at that. And so really probably the week after spring break is when I'm going to start pulling that report to say,
To send out.
yeah, hey,
We
this
can
is all
mail
we have
merge
logged.
that to families so they know what they have logged and what they haven't.
Yeah. So that's
I
the
think
goal.
the messaging though, that there's an action
There's
item
going to be a follow-up.
afterward.
Yeah.
Because I think for many years it's been, don't forget to log your hours.
Right.
So that's the big piece. Like
Yeah.
I read the newsletter all the time. I
Right.
probably read it and it still didn't register.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep. Log your
Yeah.
hours. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe a quick tutorial of like how to log in.
Yeah.
People always grab me, how do I log in? So
Yeah,
I mean, we gotta
Maybe
get
that's what it is.
Yeah, put it on there.
Your first order of business is create a how-to video.
You do
I can handle that.
I think that would be fantastic.
Here's how you get your hours.
I know they would appreciate it. Parent perspective. And then they log in and they're like 749 hours. They're like, I may have just a tiny bit too much. Oh gosh. All right. Well, I think that gets us through. Let me
Yep.
see if there's anything else on my agenda over here that I need. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. We are wrapping up. So just to loop everybody in, we will be kind of looking at volunteer hours, right? So if you've not done that, make sure that you are reaching out. I know I'm seeing it in individual classrooms. Teachers are needing help. They want you to come in and do one-on-ones with kiddos. They want you to support from multiple way. I think Brittany put something out every other day, bless her heart, on needing support for lunch help. So please, if you need some hours, that is a good way to support the school as well. But you know, it takes a village. It takes a village to do what we do. So please, please take a look at that. Think about how you can help support the school. And thank you everybody for joining us. I hope everybody has an amazing spring break next week and gets lots of downtime. Unplug for the teachers and staff out there. Please unplug and step away for the week so that you get and leaders and admin and everybody so you get a full week of just recharging and come back with only one more 9 weeks to go. So it will fly by. So, but thank you guys for all coming tonight. We want to officially welcome Sarah. We're excited to have her part of the team. I think she's going to be a great addition for us. But have a wonderful spring break and a good evening. We'll talk to you guys next time.
All right, thank you. We'll adjourn at 8:10.